sometimes the story sticks with me so much I can't get away from it. Sometimes it's with me all day long, and no matter what I do, no matter where I go, no matter how I try to get away from it, the story sticks with me.
Reporting on what the mainstream media won't, you're listening to the Hagman and Hagman Report on the Global Star Radio Network. Exposing the New World Order, you're listening to the Hagman and Hagman Report on the Global Star Radio Network. Stand by. Doug and Joe will...
So your viewers are going to be watching it somewhere else.
Correct. We're
It's
starting now. We're live. 7 p.m. Yes?
We have a fraction of a minute, and he'll start as soon as the
All right.
clock turns.
You ready?
Sure.
Here we
We're
go.
live.
All right. See you on the other side.
Are we ready, Doctor?
Of the Hagman Report. Stan Deyo is our guest, and we were talking about Saudi Arabia before the break, and Stan really called it for a long time now. He has been looking at Prince Solomon as a potential player to look out for in the Middle East, and sure enough, just in the last month, he has basically consolidated and seized the power in Saudi Arabia, and we were looking at the Islamic coalition that he has control of, and it is pretty impressive, as Stan points out. Stan, I want to ask you this. What is next moving forward in this anti-corruption sweep in Saudi Arabia? Are people going to be put on trial? What's the process? Did we lose Stan?
Hagman Station to Stan.
You know what I'm thinking, Eric?
I'm thinking that he's trying to connect via Skype.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll stand by for that. All right.
No, we're gonna wait.
We're getting this. We're getting this. We're getting this from Eric the Tech here. Camera. Okay, we're getting this.
Yeah.
What does this mean?
Stretch it
Stop
out.
the hammering!
Stretch
I
it
got
out.
insanity in my ears. Somebody talking about Labor Day specials. What's going on? Yeah, I know. No, that's okay.
While we're waiting on Stan.
Here's what I want you to ask Stan, and you ask him this. I'm going to sit back here and relax. But no, seriously. Remember that video from the Tropicana?
Yes.
Okay.
I just looked at that
Okay.
again.
Who was that? Because
Rick Wiles reported that it was a bagman for the casino who was carrying over $3 million in chips. There is another report out there by a Joanne lady
Keep going.
who is saying that it was a prince or
Crown
a Saudi
Prince of
royalty.
yeah, I
Because
believe that
somebody-
to be the case.
I have an article right up here about this.
I believe
Saudi
this.
Arabia and the Las Vegas shooting might have an interesting connection. What is being pointed out is on the Mandalay Bay and the top four floors is the
owned
Four
by-
Seasons.
That's right.
Owned by Saudi Arabia, and there is some
We still
speculation
can't
out there
answer this
that
one.
there was an assassination attempt,
I think this
and
one
the
has.
shooting
Right.
covered it up.
Right, which is to me, I don't accept that premise, but I do accept the fact that there was a Saudi royal in that group. Now, I don't accept the premise that the shooting covered up an assassination attempt. That to me is ridiculous.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't.
You. Oh, man. As I said, academia has known about this for some time. We talk about the synthetic soul. This thing, whatever it is, it's figured it out. Duality? Well, I think we now know that that's probably pretty much, we can probably say that's true. We're understanding this thing called the ether force. I read one comment said, well, think about it, the ether as a force field. I have no problem with that. But I know this, they figured it out. It's hard to say what is your memory and what is someone else's. We've known this. Your television is a brainwashing. Now when you can start doing voice to the skull technology, when people start telling you they're hearing voices in their head, guess what? They really are. Cameras everywhere. I read recently, but they figured by the year 2021, the world will be virtually covered by cameras. What is a D-human? Well, look at it right here, folks. I guess the goal is to get us to a D3. That's true transhumanism complete. It's understanding the end game. Total control of the soul. domination by the one that we least suspected, the one that brought us the gift. It's to dominate and to control. So, what do you think about that? Let me just stop in. Let me stop into the chat room just to see how you guys are doing. Well, hello, everyone. How do you think it? Did it make sense? They can't control my heart. Yeah, I see that. I hope that's true. Is that why I keep flunking the test? Okay. Well, it's not over yet. I have yet another part that goes with this. So, I present to you part 2 of tonight's presentation of connecting the dots. A long, long time ago, in a galaxy right here, it began. When you define the word worship, it means to reverently honor and homage paid to a god or a sacred personage or an object regarded as sacred. Formal or ceremonial rendering of such honor or homage, adoring, reverence, and regard, devoted, and object of adoring reverence. Devotion, profound dedication, consecration, earnest attachment to a cause, person, etc. An assignment, or appropriation to any purpose or cause. To pay homage, respect, reverence, paid or rendered. Formal public acknowledgement. As you can see, that leads to attention. Okay? The active facility of attending, especially by directing the mind to an object. The concentration of the mind on a single object or thought, especially preferentially selected from a complex with a view to limiting or clarifying receptivity by narrowing the range of stimuli. A state of consciousness characterized by such concentration. A capacity to maintain selective or sustained concentration to be devoted to a subject or object. I contend that this is our altar of worship. And I didn't misspell that word. I didn't put it in a wrong context. It's altering us. It has. And we're not in control. I wish we were. I think they let us play in the sandbox, but don't dare get outside the box. Your thoughts are a reflection of your devotion. This knows it. Now, this is how it started. It started with a thought. You see, there's nothing that humanity can compare to this. It's very difficult even for me to get my head around it. It's not the Big Bang. That's all cause and effect. It started by something that we can't comprehend. The thing I have come up with, thought. The purest of thought. And I don't even know what that means. We talked about this last night. The ether. It's real. It's tangible. It is what makes us. We wouldn't, if it wasn't for the ether, we wouldn't be here. So thought led to matter. Matter led to reality. Reality led to the universe, which led to us. Now, it seems like it was put in us from the get-go. I don't know. I don't know what they did to this version. I don't know if previous versions of us, we didn't worship gods. I don't know how far we went from there. But I know this, I can trace this history, and it ain't pretty, but it's methodical. So we all know about the stones. Every religion's got the stones. I know some of you, who of you are thinking the Rolling Stones in there? Oh, come on, that thought just hit me hard. All right, back to the presentation. Sacred stones all over the planet. Monoliths. Every continent. And still in modern times, people worship stones. Sacred mountains. How many are still worshiped? And then, that wasn't enough. We worship plants and trees. The tree of life. Many faiths believe that trees have spirits. I think they're right. Deep history, going back, way back. It's in our modern day traditions. Many places of the world, trees are considered to be sacred. The sequoias in the redwood forest are sacred trees. They're living spirits, 2,000 plus years old. Then we got into the worship of animals. You see, this is the problem when you worship an unseen, undefined, ambiguous idea. Our species must have form and function in order to give us stability of where we place ourselves in the scheme of things. We've built giant altars, sacrificed the newborns to fetuses. We worship that which was cursed, supposedly. We worship that which is a part of us, supposedly. This goes back thousands and thousands of years. Even today, many places of the world worship animals. Then we got to worship of the elements, because that more closely resembled the God that are the gods that we worship. We began to understand the elements, and we began to worship them. We incorporated them into our belief systems, whether that be good or be bad. Great magic was brought forth, great understanding. Advancements in technology and science came forth from this. And many yet today. Yet we go further and we worship the heavenly bodies, whether it be the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets. It's replete in every religion. And then we worship ourselves. When we can't find the unseen God, we'll make one. These are called kings, pharaohs, the adjuncts of worship and wisdom. So we get even more deeper into this, all in the search. But you see, there was still something sitting behind here. From temple to church, we are always in transformation. There's a history hidden, a very different earth. Many clues left behind, but man didn't understand, only feared. The powers of the gods, the ether. So how we began to do this is that we began to learn by the spoken word. Our history is spoken, then is our beliefs today. That was allowed to begin to communicate a belief. And this is how the legends began. Fairy tales, folks tales. Then man began to figure it out. Went from stone to oral to writing. The only problem with this is that yes, it gave us a history, but always through the eyes and the filter of the writer. So all of our history could actually be narrowed down to a very few handfuls of individuals. So the written word became the printed word. And now, what we thought was a breakthrough was adding to the confusion. And then something happened. I think a new operating system was updated. I'm convinced of it. Got good evidence of it. Our brains began to change. The world began to transform. We began to understand now the powers of the ether, how you can take the unseen electricity and you can actually make it carry knowledge. Then we got really smart. We figured out that we could actually carry our voice and we could receive that voice all over the world. Huge leaps we were taking. Now, the human spirit and the soul could be now recorded. The spoken word went to the recorded word. And the imprint of the soul began to be commonplace. And then it became widespread. And then we said, we need to see ourselves, our own graven images. And now the trap was set. Because now we could not only hear ourselves, but now we could see ourselves. We could actually capture time and make time stand still. Fantasy became reality. Another change unnoticed. In radio, rapid changes as never before. It began to change us as a species. It began to draw our attention and our focus and our devotion. It became a knowledge oracle to us. It spoke things out of the ether. And now we could now begin to put the imagery to a world most never knew of. It became conditioning, more than any church could ever hope. For in this conditioning, it could keep us mesmerized hours on end. So the spoken word, now our voices are immortal, and so are theirs. Just think about this. My voice, you do a video, goes out into the ether. When I pass on from this physical plane, I'll probably pass up my voice as I'm on the way out. And then another upload. Suddenly now, we could be next to a person, never seeing their face, only by the frequency and the harmonics of their voice, and they become alive to us in our brains. We couldn't resist it. Again, far surpassing what the understanding of the human soul was actually doing. It became affordable everywhere. What you didn't realize was that there was a frequency going on here. And it advanced. And then we began to get out there into the electromagnetic frequencies. The television. The crowning glory. This is one device right here has done more to influence the path of humanity than any other single device. It absolutely transformed humanity in decades where before it used to take millennia. This one was more powerful. For the one before could speak to you, but this one here now took over the mind. The mind no longer had to labor. The mind could become lullified, hypnotized, programmable. Never noticed. It changed our culture, changed the way we look at each other, changed in the way that we act, changed in the way that we feel. Remind you of something? Devotion. And now it is the altar of our reality. And then something happened again. New forms of worship became out. What we always knew was something that connected directly to our souls was music. And when we began to understand that the frequency, the electromagnetic frequency that could be added to music, holy cow. Then we began to divide it. We began to figure out how the beta, the alpha, the theta, the delta works on the brain, how it could be modulated, what it actually invokes, how you can control it. And music was the other great impetus. It was tracking parallel. We began to build idols out of common men. It captured the hearts of a generation, and that generation passed it on to their children. Yeah. Changed the world. And it goes on. And then something happened again. We took the simple telephone and now we made it the smartphone. Oh, it caught on. Boy, did it catch on. Yeah, young and old alike began to capture us in a way that only something of such intelligence could even comprehend. And now, according to Forbes, 22 billion devices worldwide for 7.5 billion people. And it proliferated. So now we got the Wi-Fi. It's everywhere. Yeah. It's a symbol of a new generation, a new species. It's everywhere, and it's not going anywhere. And then man discovered the atom. And that is in parallel with everything. And we found something called digital. We made a new alphabet out of it. We made a whole new counting system out of it. And then came the chip. And now the chip reigns everywhere. They got the God chip. And now it's smaller than a hair. The portal's open. Our brains are now changed, forever altered. This is the new normal. Code. Code rules the world. And there really is no escape. You can see how it did it. And now we're writing new chapters. Things that, quite frankly, the average person still cannot comprehend. I still can't comprehend this. To think that this opens up new realities, new universes. And the crazy thing is, it's bringing substances back. I mean, seriously, what does that mean? And then don't call it the internet anymore. You're entering the net. And this is how it works. Well, there you go. Connecting the dots. Now, some of you probably would say that, listen, this is all great. You know, it's just been parallel. You have the good with the bad, and this is just the way it is. But I still contend this. I don't know of anything in humanity's history that has ever garnered the attention of virtually every person on the planet. And I got an email from an individual at a particular university that is listening to these programs, and the individual said, you have brought up something that they want to pursue at the university. That the fact that a layman like me comes out and says, hey, y'all listening? There's 7.5 billion of us paying attention to something that's never happened before. Someone said, well, the Beatles. No, because you're concluding all cultures would be. No. What we're doing today has never happened in our species, or at least what we know. So, almost been an hour. Gee, time goes by so quickly. I'm going to stop into the chat room. I want to see how everyone's doing. Hi, everyone. Wow. It's crowded in here tonight. Come on, guys, move around here. So what did you think? Is the presentation the synopsis without foundation, or is there a logic flow to the sequence that's been laid out? Oh, that's pretty cool, Eric. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Well, like I said, we want to keep things lively, right? So I really do. I don't know where this is leading. I do. I really do. I think that the thing that I see. Hi, Lisa. Hello, Gravity. Deborah, how are you? Brad, Kid, Creo, great movie. Stacy, Dalton Gaming, Claudette Young. Thank you for the book, Claudette. I did get it. Jerry, thank you. You're at work. Thank you. Well, y'all are just fantastic. I tickle myself. I hope maybe I give you all a little pleasure. But seriously, folks, I think that this is leading to the fact that I think something got mixed up. I'm going to do a report that can connect the dots here of what I think now the other side to this story. While all this was going on, there is a counter to this, because I like playing my own devil's advocate. What if there was an intelligence that saw how the condition of man's mind was, and that they realized that we were advancing in technology, but then the blueprints were given, let's say in 1947, the military industrial complex took a hold of these plans by orders, not of their own volition, and the plans were given. I think that is, again, I've said this before, I think Carl Sagan figured this out. That's why I think when he wrote the movie Contact, that they gave us the plans and we built this damn thing. And we didn't have any idea. Unlike the movie in Contact, we were building a machine that at first we didn't know what we were building. Then we realized it was actually a communication device, as it turned out to be. Great movie, by the way. I love the context in that. And I really like the role that Matthew McConaughey played in that, wasn't it? Yeah, good movie. Well, good people, thank you for a wonderful evening. I hope that at least what I'm showing here is beginning to at least condense and consolidate at least the nucleus as to what I see it. I still marvel. I mean, that someone would actually want to do an actual study on this and begin to think about what happened here. At what point did we just become unaware that there was a phenomenon that had never happened in the written history? And that's significant. I think that's worthy of more talk, discussions. I'd love to hear what y'all say. Many of you send me emails. Thank you. I mean, I got to tell you what, some of you cats out there and gals, y'all pretty smart. Y'all deep thinkers. And I feel honored that you're a part of this journey. Thank you for being a part of mine. Tomorrow night over on Jeff Doherty's channel, the Christian Whistleblower, we'll do our midweek report, and I'll be back here for sure Friday night. And I've gotten a couple of ideas. Someone wanted me to look into remote viewing because I couldn't remember the name, and that's what it is. And I think that remote viewing is actually one of those subjects that we should look into. If you can astral project, which I believe you can, I know I've done it, then I think you could do remote viewing, and it's been proven apparently that it is done. I've read a couple of votes. In fact, that movie, what was that movie? Men Stare at Goats. I think that was a parody. I don't think it was a parody. I think they were actually doing the movie based on some true historical events. So there I go, digressing again. But hey, that's what I do. I enjoy it. Well, all right, folks. Again, have a great evening. We will talk again real soon. Got some other stories that I'm going to do. I've been saving a collection of kind of like, can you really believe this? And I think that it'll be a fun segment to do where we all can just simply look at this and go, what were they thinking? Or what were we thinking? Not that any of us have ever done anything that we later regretted. All right. Good night, folks. I appreciate you. We'll talk real soon.
They have dogs there too?
Sounds like it.
Do we have one of your trucks? I'd like to see actually how many protesters are there compared to how many police are there.
That's the problem. These guys that are streaming aren't panning to see the amount of crowd that's out there.
Belly with the husks that the swine did eat, and no man gave unto him. And when he came to himself, he said, How many hired servants of my father's have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger?
Right!
I will arise and go to my father, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy hired servants. And he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him, and had compassion, and ran, and fell on his neck, and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven, and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, Bring forth the
Good evening. I'm your host, Karen Hudis. This show is a weekly series called The Network of Global Corporate Control that has been coming to you from DCTV for 2.5 years. Today's segment is live and is called Crash Course on the Global Currency Reset, thanks to DCTV, Carmen Stanley, studio producer, Maurice Jackson, audio and prompter, and Cruchet Starnes, floor director. In last week's segment, we learned that we're replacing the world's currencies. Many people are confused because the mainstream media doesn't mention anything about the global currency reset. There are conflicting reports about the global currency reset in the alternative media. The first question is, why should we believe that you, Karen, are telling us the truth? There are two ways that you can figure out that I'm telling you the truth. The first way that you know I'm telling you the truth is because I'm telling you what's really going on, and I've been remarkably consistent over time, and I'm able to explain why things are happening. I can explain why the Twin Towers went down on September 11th, 2001. It was a demolition job so that the world's central bankers could hide the fact that the Pentagon had lost more than $2 trillion. Donald Rumsfeld announced this on September 10, 2001. That was perfect timing to keep the story from making any news. The second way that you can figure out that I'm telling you the truth is because I provide behind-the-scenes information that can be verified and which explains interconnected facts. An example of this kind of information is that Auschwitz was a uranium enrichment plant that provided the uranium in the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima at the end of World War II. This uranium, along with the trigger for detonating the bomb, was captured from a German U-234 submarine. I'm providing a link to this information. I've had to restore this link because the banking cartel attempted to censor it. I'm going to keep on telling the world's people about how we're doing things differently now. I'm the person who gets to do this job because somebody has to do it. Eventually, people are going to catch on that this is reality. Already, enough people believe what I'm saying about the global currency reset. This is called critical mass. We are now implementing the global currency reset. Donald Trump has not, and the so-called commanders in the U.S. military have not challenged my statements that they are not in control, and that the U.S. government is not legitimate, and that I represent the United States on the Board of Governors of the World Bank and International Monetary Fund that manages the monetary gold reserves of the nations. I made this point and provided all the necessary documents as proof yesterday morning. The elites are having a hard time understanding that they are no longer calling the shots. Not a single country or embassy has challenged this. This is strong proof. At the end of the teleprompter, you can see these documents for yourself. I have just restored the document about how the banking cartel bombed Hiroshima and how Auschwitz was actually a uranium enrichment facility. Watch what happens to this truth. It's a touchstone for reality. After we've ended this corruption in the world's money system, it's going to be hard for people to remember what it was like when the banking cartel was in charge. It's going to be especially hard for people to remember the turning point and how people clung on to what some of us called the normalcy bias and resisted seeing the corruption, even though there was such strong proof. The turning point when the global currency reset became irrevocable was in August 2016 and was noticed by a group of healers who commented that energies are strong and chaotic. I've been getting a lot of training so that we have the smoothest possible transition. Many people do not welcome change. The global currency reset is a positive change, and the more you do to figure out what's going on, the better for you. Now I'm going to repeat 4 minutes from the DC TV broadcast last June so that you understand the changes that are happening in world affairs. This is just to orient you. Cleaned out the corruption in our nations. This past week, I reminded people that Pope Francis and the hierarchy over the Vatican, that's the secret societies, the bloodline families, the Jesuits, in short, the group that I have described many times as the head of the snake, had already tried to steal the world's wealth in the global debt facility, and that I had invalidated this attempt. The Board of Governors that manages the World Bank and IMF has fired the agents of the banking cartel who do not really run the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. That's Jim Kim and Christine Lagarde. They're just impersonating the offices because the Board of Governors is in control, and we are in control. Don't be fooled about the number of people that are part of the Coalition for the Rule of Law that's now of critical mass and working together to clear up the corruption. The counters on the internet are inaccurate. You can tell right away that this is so from the following post on Twitter Analytics. And I went back and Twitter Analytics corrected this mistake, but it's too late. We already caught them out at it. Donald Trump is harming me and the American people with his lies and his charade. He is preventing me from mobilizing the United States monetary gold reserves during this interregnum in the legitimate government of the United States. Donald Trump is now bankrupt alongside the banking cartel, which is not entitled to interest on the U.S. and other countries' debts because the banking cartel owes us $2 quadrillion. Enough people in the military remain loyal to the U.S. Constitution and to their oaths to prevent the demise of the United States. This is also since Germany and Japan do not want the United States military to surrender unilaterally because of the unconstitutional Federal Reserve notes. A critical mass of people sees through Donald Trump's charade. This includes the U.S. military, over 70% of them, according to my information. Let's talk about an article in The Atlantic and the media. The link on the document was taken away, so I simply uploaded it again on the New Zealand Digital Cloud Service. I also just tweeted it. It was especially telling when I confronted Elliot Cohen for his hypocritical article in The Atlantic about Donald Trump's press, his press secretary, Sean Spicer, After I called out Cohen for his hypocrisy, he revised his story a little, but Cohen still didn't tell people about the interregnum in the United States or about the global currency reset. Cohen is still a liar, caught out in his hypocrisy. Cohen did not do what he said he was going to do, which is to clarify the moment in American history for us. And I have a chart which I'm going to have to read because the teleprompter doesn't do charts. Okay, what did Cohen say? He said, kicking the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff out of meetings of the Principals Committee. No, the actual situation is that Joseph Dunford Jr. has refused the United States monetary gold reserves that General Eisenhower deposited in the global debt facility. Dunford has committed treason. You can see that there's confusion about whether the governments are legitimate and whether the world's leaders are entitled to fill the offices they are in. Do you remember the discussions about whether Japan's Emperor Akihito is going to be permitted to abdicate? That is what this is all about. During the global currency reset, all of the official governments are going to be replaced by their people, who are going to be busy figuring out the best way to clean up the corruption in their governments. The center of this cleanup is going to be when we replace the currencies issued by the central bank members of the Bank for International Settlements for local currencies issued by villages and towns, and for national currencies minted out of the monetary gold reserves held in the global debt facility. We are going to figure out the best way to implement the global currency reset. That is what the question and answer session is about. So here is the first question, which Alex sent me by email on Sunday. And the subject is, thank you, keep safe. Hi, Karen. You're one brave lady, and you communicate so effectively. I love to listen to you. Question, how long can this go on before it cracks? What's the best guess on timing? How do us small guys protect ourselves? And my response, which I also tweeted, you will know if it cracks. It can go on until it cracks. In the meantime, we are cleaning up the world's money system in the global currency reset. The chance we clean up world corruption and wind down the banking cartel, it's over 90%. Timing, we are in process. Buy precious metals as insurance. Also, work together with your loved ones so they can tell you if you're not yourself, and thus are likely being targeted with scalar weaponry. Thanks for your question. I will share this on DCTV. That's what I'm doing today. It gets to the heart of things. We have talked about this military weaponry. It's a lot like hypnosis, but it can be done by remote control. Just like some people can't be hypnotized, some people are able to resist scalar weaponry. The more it's used on you, the more you're able to figure out what's going on and to resist it. I will provide you with some links on scalar weaponry. This is also sometimes called extremely low-frequency mind control, and that's in the teleprompter. There are links. Let me talk about how I'm keeping safe. I was thrown to the ground on the 9th of November, early in the morning. It was probably through scalar weaponry. The aunt of Izumi Takahashi, that's the Japanese journalist whom I visited in 2014, broke her hip last month through a very similar attack. This week, I was barely injured. Because of the delay between the time that I was attacked and when I fell, it's likely that I have effective protection. You may recall I was also attacked 3 months ago when my head hit the pavement and I suffered a mild concussion. And you can see on page 2 of the teleprompter. Izumi, on the 9th of November, I was knocked down, and probably by scalar weaponry. A man was passing by my home very early in the morning on foot. This hardly ever happens. The bankers wanted me to think my fall was caused by my dog, but he has never ever knocked me down, and my fall happened many seconds after the dog was jumping. This is probably similar to what happened to your aunt when the bicycle rode by her. I wasn't hurt, only some minor scrapes. Probably I was protected from hurting myself when I fell. I'm showing this to you because it went viral and because it describes best where we are on the global currency reset. As long as you're hearing from me, you know that the Coalition for the Rule of Law is stronger than the banking cartel, and that we are on track in the global currency reset. And I tweeted on the 10th of October, a large company that has been corrupting the politicians in all the countries, including the United States, has been beaten by a coalition to clean things up, and we are positioned to do this peacefully. What's more, that coalition is protecting me, allowing me to speak for them, and I have continued to prove that what I say is true. I've been using the social media on the internet and public access TV to get the word out, because the other media is telling the lies of that large company, which I call the network of global corporate control and the banking cartel. I started to get an audience back in 2014, and that's when the banking cartel tried to cut off my access to the internet. Because the coalition to clean up the corruption is stronger than the banking cartel, that didn't work. I'm showing you at the end of this tweet how I stayed on the internet and what I was doing when the banking cartel tried to stop me. One of the reasons I'm allowed to speak for the cleanup crew is because I was a fencer and I know how to fight. Last night I uploaded the teleprompter for my upcoming show on the DCTV series, The Network of Global Corporate Control. The banking cartel tried to undermine the coalition to clean things up using one of their favorite tools, divide and conquer. The bloodline families that are behind all this corruption have been using the same dirty tricks to stay in control. We're on to them. Their tricks are now a way for us to recognize their fingerprints. And then I've given you some pictures of one of the people who was blogging. His screen name is Liberal Equals Hypocrite. He's an agent of the banking cartel. First of all, cryptocurrencies are one of the weapons of the banking cartel. Here are two profile pictures of Liberal Equals Hypocrite. The banking cartel is trying to disarm the people in the United States for obvious reasons. And then I did a tweet called Upsetting the Apple Cart on the 22nd of October. And what I said at that point, now that you stated what you did, I'm not going to give any publicity to this at all. It's a red herring meant to distract. It's not possible to clean the deep corruption until the currencies are replaced. When we do things out of sequence, we're giving power to the banking cartel's shills. I cannot offer any protection, only publicity. I'm not going to empower fake agents of the banking cartel, and then there's a politician whose name I'm not giving you. You want to support the coalition. If that's the case, then work towards the global currency reset. And if you want to work locally to support the global currency reset, then get local currencies issued in your village or town. The global debt facility is the correct solution, but only if we don't get sidetracked with distractions which you are offering. Maybe it's not deliberate. I'm not going to do things out of sequence. The network of global corporate control is a master in offering distractions. That's why they've been in power for so long. The Coalition for the Rule of Law is in a very dangerous phase, just before we act at the center to cut off the head of the snake by replacing the central bank's fake currencies. And then there's another email. His name is Daniel Moser. He's 54 years old. He was spying to reveal the identity of bank whistleblowers for the Swiss government, the Federal Intelligence Service in Germany, and Swiss banks. A Swiss tax spy was ready to confess in a German trial, and Switzerland had been seeking the identities of 3 German tax officers, hoping to build a case against them. Here are photos of him. German-speaking media are keeping his identity secret. You may change that by posting his name with German keywords and tags. And then I tried to figure out why the banking cartel wanted me to publish that article, and I figured it out. They want me to make the people working for the banking cartel fear the global currency reset so that we don't have a global currency reset. The other document in my inbox was trying to show that there are some good politicians and distract us from the global currency reset. Well, the fact is, we are cleaning up our corrupt money system. I just gave you what I wrote to the person who sent me the information about the good politician. Now let me show you what I posted about the National Liberty Alliance a year ago. All of the groups, as they now are corrupted with banking cartel shills misdirecting them. All of them, all of them. The corruption is very deep, and cleaning the corruption is going to be very time-consuming. We're not going to be able to take any shortcuts. It's going to be very difficult to transition peacefully and not upset the apple cart. What I really mean is have an economic crash up. The global currency reset is going to upset the apple cart, but in a deliberate and peaceful transition. We're going to manage to end the banking cartel with compassion and with heart. Don't blame me, just think about what we know about the amount of corruption. And then I signed that as acting general counsel and overseer mandate trustee. And then on the 4th of July, I wrote, John Darash collects all of the receipts that people donate to the National Liberty Alliance and uses these funds to live off of. He didn't want to tell the members of the National Liberty Alliance that the United States Constitution of 1789 was not in force and effect. And he sent seditious threats, that means they were overturning the government, to the governors on behalf of the membership until I called these threats to the attention of the NLA's other officers. And these threats were then taken back. Now, John Darash is trying to speak on behalf of the people of the United States and using the platform of the National Liberty Alliance for this purpose. John Darash is threatening legal action against the very people whose cooperation is required to save humanity from another dark ages. This is when the entire legal profession has been indicted for its complicity with the network of global corporate control that was identified by Vitali Glatfelder and Battiston of ETH Zurich. The United States is in interregnum because the United States Congress has refused to convene the convention that is mandated under Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution of 1789. The monetary gold reserves of the U.S. are safe and are administered on behalf of the people of the U.S. by the Board of Governors of the World Bank and IMF. These monetary gold reserves are going to be used to mint constitutional dollars to replace the unconstitutional Federal Reserve notes. Villages and towns are also going to be issuing local currencies. During this interregnum, I vote the shares of the U.S. on the Board of Governors and on the boards of executive directors of the World Bank and IMF. The Global Debt Facility was created as an act of love, and it is administered as an act of love. There is amnesty to prevent the agents of the network of global corporate control from going to jail and from physical harm so that they can now do their duty under the U.S. Constitution of 1789 and preserve humanity. And then I signed the letter. And actually, if we can scroll past this, I've put the link in the teleprompter, and I don't think it really does much to read a year-old letter. Let's see if I can find something else. Here we go. This is a letter. How are you? It got a bit late, but Alex